your relationship with your child is only going to get as good as your nervous system is. Meaning that if you don't have some type of control with your nervous system, it doesn't matter what you say, your fear, your stress will shape their reality experience.
Today's guest is Dr. Doktor, a best-selling author whose book was published by the team behind the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. With a doctorate in clinical psychology and over 28 years of experience as a life and relationship coach, Dr. Ray has shared stages with some of the most influential voices in personal development, including Marianne Williamson, Bruce Lipton, John Gray, and Eckhart Tolle. His expertise has been featured on the E! Channel, HBO, and KCAL 9 Los Angeles, as well as in Psychology Today, Men's Health, and the Los Angeles Times. Welcome, Dr. Ray.
Thank you for having me.
I'm
Good to see
really
you.
excited for this conversation. As you know, we both have children. We're passionate about helping children as well. With that said, what is one of the most courageous things that you have done?
Well, as a parent or in life in general, or any specific thing that you like to speak upon, I think parenting is quite courageous, particularly if you take on a lot of tension in it, in which you maybe want to run from it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go with that.
Okay, all right. Well, I have probably one of the most unusual stories, which can lead to a lot of uh, questions and hopefully answers, because I would say that there's not many people who have had a child this way. So my son was already 5.5 months old when he arrived. And that meant the mother of my child kept that from me.
Oh,
And I don't need to get into her story. So I did the whole DNA test and everything else. But you can imagine certain things such as a child would go through, which I'm going to bring this up here. And it will help kind of listeners who are very passionate about learning new tools of how to guide their children. And that is, he grew up in a home where he never saw us together. He never saw mommy, daddy. And so, of course, he's being exposed to TV programs or films where there's a mommy and daddy. So you imagine that might have created some curiosity for him. Two, he moved a lot when he was with his mother, and then he ended up being with me full time. So there's been what people would label as instability. He did witness. When I say witness, it's one thing to witness, it's another thing to experience. So he had witnessed some drama. I even wrote about it in my book, where his mother was mugged while holding my son, and she had a gun pointed to her head. So I can go on like a lot of things that had happened with him, and he is beyond confident. He's happy. He's thriving. And it's by my way of parenting, probably, that has influenced him to not allow any of those things to shape him, which is what has kind of created the idea of wanting to guide other parents in this direction, because many parents have their own story. Everyone thinks they're unique or special. And this is not to invalidate your experience, but oftentimes parents will say, my kid is this way because they're a second child, or they're this way because your mother or dad wasn't around, or my child acts this way because he moved around a lot. All these different stories. And more and often, what parents don't realize is these factors. Number one, your relationship with your child is only going to get as good as your nervous system is. Meaning that if you don't have some type of control with your nervous system, it doesn't matter what you say, your fear, your stress will shape their reality experience. Number two, how you see life and whether or not you are matching what you teach is going to have a big effect of whether or not they believe and trust you, your direction, because if you're not aligned with your words, why would they be?
Yeah.
Number three, that you need to give them options as far as decisions when it comes to Earth and give it to them straightforward. For example, my son practices sarcasm. Okay. And sarcasm is great if you're from New York. Okay. Sarcasm might not be great if you're in a culture where they're hypersensitive. Okay. So, with my son, he hasn't been well received in some situations. So when I say options, it's we love sarcasm. We don't take things so seriously. We have a good time, Max. However, this type of person might respond this way. This person might respond a different way, and this person might respond another way. You can choose how you want to show up, just as long as it's authentically you. So, for example, if I know people are not going to laugh at my sarcasm, more than likely, I'm not going to keep exercising it. It's not because I'm not changing who I am. It's just more of a kind of a social thing. It's just more so I can create connections in a way where I can be experienced as being relatable. So I teach my son how to be relatable. But that would be an example of like saying, you shouldn't do this. All people are going to be this way. It's saying that, if you want to be received, typically you need to be flexible. You need to be flexible.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, I would say, non-parenting, a lot of permissive parenting. A lot of parents don't know how to parent. They're trying to do the opposite as that the baby boomers did or the great generation did. They're maybe overcompensating and giving too many choices where children feel insecure and anxiety because they're not clear themselves and they're yearning for an adult, a parent to show up.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's so true, allowing the child to be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
We're guiding them, but without criticizing them as well and being with it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have some great points like why should kids not have social media accounts early in life and what happens when they confuse virtual identity to real life
Yeah.
self, because that's something really, I mean, who isn't on social media? The children are on it all the time, or at least they're on devices where they can access social media. I really understand. I'd love to know more about that.
Well, if they don't have a strong sense of self and then they're being exposed to different realities, like extremes, to where they might be watching an influencer
Hmm.
offer no values but they're still being liked because they're physically attractive based off consensus reality, then they might be wondering, well, what is it going to get me for being a great person, when this person's kind of a jerk or something. There's not very good role models to, if other children are paying attention to other people's social media accounts, and that virtual reality becomes like I don't know what that would be like. I didn't experience that. I just remember the jocks and the cheerleaders, maybe being popular. I remember it was always what we would consider physically beautiful being or handsome, being a popular people, sometimes a person with money because they drove some type of car. It was very superficial. But, people I get some type of social currency by just having their post be liked. And it might be just a photo offering nothing, offering nothing. I noticed that my son, because he has a YouTube account and he has 10,000 followers.
Mm.
He's been through different phases through that. And meaning that I try to direct him a little bit in sharing positive content. Of course, a lot of that had to do with me and my projections and how I'd maybe want him to be perceived. And I had to let that go. But he's a pretty conscious, awake kid. So I wanted that part. So we shot maybe 2 videos that are still up there and some other things. Then he posted stuff where it's kind of like slapstick, like stuff that I don't know, it almost appeared where he could come off as being mean or something. I said, this is a glimpse of how people might perceive you and not really know you. Do you really want this to be out there? And he deleted stuff, and I'm teaching him about that. You can't you just move forward, because if you mess up if you mess up your YouTube account and start deleting people, what's going to happen is that YouTube is going to think you're like catfishing, or not catfishing, but clickbaiting, because of fake advertisement. Then you delete all the advertisement. So of course he got punished for that by the algorithms in YouTube. Then now he's creating something new, which is more comedy. And I think it's his timing is getting really good, and it's becoming more of himself. But I've seen him go through this phase. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because I first started off with saying, this is how you should do it, because I want to be a mini me. Then he did something where I said, I go, this is how you could be perceived. People are just getting a glimpse of you. They don't know you're this sweet, beautiful child. And then now seems like he's kind of moving a little bit more into his groove, finding himself, and it's like, that's all you can really do as a parent. But it's interesting. He has a lot more traffic than his fellow students. They're saying like, could you, I don't know, plug me, share people, I don't know how my son's videos took off, but they did.
Yeah.
And his friends might compare themselves with my son, Max. And yet my son, Max, doesn't really care. I mean, it doesn't even mean much to him, because I've said to him, these people don't even know who you are on YouTube. Like, you create a video. If you're excited about the creation, great. But if he was prepped by some of the comments also, I said, remember, people can have a bad day and say something. They're just working it out with you. So I prepped him about the whole social media thing. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I don't know if other parents are skilled to do that. Meaning that if you're not skilled to do that, and you don't know how to help your kid develop that the confidence, you don't want social media and influencers who have no values raise your child. You don't want that collective narrative to raise your child. So my son wanted to enter it, and I prepared him for it. There's in Wreck-It Ralph, I think Wreck-It Ralph 2, where he's trying to raise money to save something. It's a good cause. And he makes some videos where he's kind of seen as an idiot. He breaks into the back end of where the video is being shown. And then someone tries to protect him from seeing the comments. And he starts reading the comments, and they're negative. Look at this buffoon. Look at this idiot. Like really harsh things. And he goes into this dark echo chamber, and someone tries to share in the movie, like, it's really good. Like it's good learning. These people don't even know who you are. This has nothing to do with you. I think it's a great film to watch. It's for kids.
Yeah.
Like that. So we stopped that. When that movie came out, I showed Max when he was younger. I said, and I pulled out my social media accounts, and I said, look at this. Look what this person's saying about me. They're like, they don't even know you, Dad. I said, I don't know. I know. I go, while I'm having breakfast with you right now, someone thinks they're mad at me.
And I love that, because I love Wreck-It Ralph, and breaks the internet. Absolutely love those movies. And it's so true, because algorithm, the followers, the likers, they're not seeing, like you said, the true person that is really there, the real self. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, it's I would love more of my son's real personality to come out, and we've done some fun stuff, but he's got to find himself in that. So I let go. I let go of that. But I had the idea we were going to try to get him up to 100,000 followers, and he would provide value. And I ended up stepping back from it. I'm allowing it just to be kind of a hobby for him.
Absolutely. And that's courageous as well, allowing them to be their own person. Because so many times we want them to be a certain way, like you did say. And you've got to give them that chance to be who they are. And sometimes they've got to have a little fall to find out what it's really like. And we can't protect them all the time. We can be there as a buffer. Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, this is something that has helped my son It's what has helped my girlfriend's son, who's like a stepchild to me,
Hmm.
is transparency.
Yeah.
Transparency. And if a person hasn't done therapy or any type of deeper inner work, it is really uncomfortable for them to be themselves. There's many parents out there who want to be cool to their child. They want to be liked by their child. Um, they are lacking confidence in their own life as an adult, at work, and so forth. So, of course, they might hide that from the children, but children are pretty intuitive and pick up on that. So, as an example, with my son, with when I got a little frustrated with some of the videos because I am human, I said, Max, I'm sorry, I'm going to share with you an insecurity. And I said that this is something that I have never faced. I said, I talk about you being a certain way on Facebook. And many of my friends who have met you think you're pretty amazing. And you really are those things. And I said, so when you make these other videos, I made it about me where I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think this way about him. Like, here's Dr. Ray talking about his kid, but he's doing this thing that looks a little bit strange or cringy. That would be it. He was making some, it's funny how I adopted that word. My son made some cringy videos. And I just, and I personalized it. And I said, Max, I'm sorry. It's not you, it's me, but I want let you know how I feel about it. And those are my thoughts. Like, I don't hide thoughts. I don't hide projections. And he ended up deleting them. I said, well, I hope you didn't do it for me. He said, no, I stepped back and I kind of recognized that, yeah, it is kind of that way. And I don't want to be seen that way.
It's a lesson learned, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, how do we teach kids real life discernment through concrete, honest examples?
Well, one of them was, one of the examples, but I can make up a few right now. So I think that, for example, we were talking about social media, the idea of bullying.
Mm.
And what I use always is TV and film.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is that typically on TV, there's some type of hero's journey. There is some
Hmm.
challenge where the character has to break through whatever that experience is, go, fight their demons, and then hopefully they become this better person or something like that. And so one of the ways that I will do this is by when we watch a movie, and it's not all the time, but it is for sure. I do it when it's a narrative that our family doesn't agree with. So,
Hmm.
for example, we were watching a comedy last night, and it was where the mother's totally stressed about Christmas and caught up in that narrative of stress. You buy presents for people that you don't even care about, and you just do this thing. And I stopped the movie and I said, that thought exists, right? I go, do you notice during the holidays you see people kind of tense?
Hmm.
I, to the boys, they're like, yes. I said, so is this true for us? They're like, no. I said, but if you believe that and you're like these people in the movie, you would be stressed out like that. So what is a question? What can a holidays represent, whether you're Jewish, Buddhist, or Christian?
Hmm.
A time with family, a time
Yeah.
to connect, a time to be grateful. I'm like, yeah, you sound like a pagan. But anyway, whatever you want to call it, I said, it's because, we don't know there's so many meanings behind it. There's so
Hmm.
many, no one can say it meant this. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And so that's a life experience being taught through TV and film of like ways that we can experience life. That would be one. Or, and this might not sound really good, but I do have a bachelor's in human behavior. I also break down behavior. And it's
Mm.
not like I'm judging kids on the playground. However, when it's helpful it had worked. And when Max, I remember, was 5 and 6 years old, there was this boy named Richard, and Richard really had a lot of behavioral problems.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. His parents were never around. Grandmother didn't really pay attention, kind of yelled at him. And we can see him acting out, like doing things like throwing things at people, punching. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like when I say behavioral issues, I'm talking about real issues. And so he like threw sand at Max. And, most parents might say, he's a bully or he's just learning. But the kid was also at an age where that probably is something that he should have learned.
Mm-hmm.
And so for Max to recognize some people are this way, and you actually might grow up with people in life who are adults who
Yeah.
are a-holes, we use everything as an experience.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Max, do you notice that when Richard's here, it doesn't seem like anyone pays attention to him? I go, what do you think that would feel like? Oh, I would feel bad. I said, yeah. I go, I know it sucked that he threw sand at you. I said, but what if that is his way of getting attention or acting out? I said, do you notice you're not the only person this happens to? I go, have you ever seen his parents? Have you ever seen him be hugged? And that was it. That's about as far as I went. I said, we went to the playground, and there was Max had this really amazing fire truck, and he was already over it. And I was gonna, we were gonna get rid of it. And I said, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna give it to Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? I said, well, who do you think needs it the most? Who needs it the most? So we went there, and he brought it to Richard, and you should have saw him light up, like almost like I didn't deserve this. You're gonna give this to me. So we gave it to him, and that shifted the relationship. He looked at Max a little differently. Like he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the enemy, wasn't someone that worked something out and punch and whatever else. And that was it. And Max had the experience of giving to someone who maybe felt like he had less.
Mm. That's absolutely beautiful. I love that. And it is just the simplest things, understanding,
Mm-hmm.
seeing how it occurs for that child. And that's one of the biggest things. If we could just stop sometimes and just do that
Yeah.
without getting caught up, oh, he's hurting my child or he's upsetting my child. But what's the reason behind it? If you can just stop and understand that, how is that child becoming? And how is he becoming the way he is? Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Max is very caring. He does give.
Mm, mm,
And we even had a moment where we were in Santa Monica, and there was this Easter hunt experience, and where we weren't, I guess if you collected so many eggs, you could get some prize.
mhm,
And Max did not hear when we were supposed to jump in there and do it. And he jumped in there not too much sooner, but this parent got really angry.
mhm,
And I first, I was a little triggered in that moment. I'm like, dude, like, chill
mhm.
the F, chill out. They're here to have a good time. Well, your son, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And so Max is collecting the eggs. I said, Max, I said, you see that boy over there? And it was that man's son. I said, I
Yeah.
want you to give him all your eggs. And he's like, why? I said, I go, because first off, Max, I go, the prize that you're going to get is cheap stuff that it's going to break and whatever else. I said, this kid, it might mean more to him than you. And I go, you do this, we're going to like go do something fun anyway.
Mhm,
And he gave it to the kid.
mhm.
And, the kid was happy. And of course, maybe the parent felt like a little off on that one. I was trying to teach a lesson, honestly, to an adult
Mm,
also.
mm.
And that was it. But, like showing up that way, what I've taught Max feels so much better. It does.
Absolutely.
The gifting.
Oh, yeah.
So it's in action. We do it in action. We do it in real time, little moments.
Mm. And it's just so rewarding.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's natural,
Hmm.
There's no big deal about it.
Oh, yeah. I talk to the kids
Yeah.
when they do something like, for example,
Mm,
I'm an old school parent. I'm an older dad, and
mm,
where I've made the meal, and then they're just sitting there, and I'm like, I go, so I guess we don't need forks and knives and napkins or anything. They'll get up like, and I'm like, just remember, other people exist here as well. You need to contribute. So
yeah.
I'm about like, showing up.
I'm right there with you on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do we raise kids who aren't sheltered yet still preserve their innocence?
Okay. Well, I think what you're saying is that how do we not shelter children, but also preserve their innocence, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this is, I'll give you an example or many examples. If you if you're aware of the Waldorf type of teaching, it's very experiential,
Hmm.
and often they do not want children to be exposed to social media at all, maybe none at all. They could be pretty extreme with it, where um, they shelter their kids from real life experiences with the idea
Hmm.
that they don't want their child to become part of the matrix, like get lost in that, which I understand that they're trying to preserve the creativity. Like, for example, the opposite is parents who give their children an iPhone to distract them or iPad to distract them. There's nothing creative happening for that kid. They're checked out. The
Hmm.
entertainment, the creativity is being done for them. So the idea behind that is for their children to keep access to the creative mind, correct? So it's a beautiful thing. However, where I maybe disagree a little bit, or where there's got to be a balance is this. If all children are watching social media, or like they have access to a phone, or let's say 70% of the children you be around know about the Marvel heroes or kind of what's going on Earth, and you show up to the playground and know nothing, you're not going to be relatable. That's extreme. Like, you don't even know what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
And that is not going to be a good feeling for your child. And so um, it's really important for children to be exposed to things that you think are going to be positive for
Hmm.
your family, and that that exercise the principles that you desire, that you choose media, you choose friends, you choose those who are taking personal responsibility to direct their lives and be around that collective narrative rather than victimhood and blame and gossip. So it's from the social media you might watch, where there might be a balance. So you choose films like Soul or Wreck-It Ralph or Thomas and Trains, or something where there's true characters. You don't shelter them, but it's where you can help them with the narratives, in the story, uh, to the people that you choose to be around. Like, I know this, some people can hear us and go, my God, this sounds like I would be judgmental. No, it's being discerning.
Hmm.
It's being discerning, because I know this, like, if you have a parent who doesn't put a friend or a parent who doesn't have a decent, like, go to bed time,
Yeah.
and where they have no boundaries, it is really difficult sometimes to have our kids hang out with them, because our kids are going to be up at 10 p.m. and we're the ones who are going to deal with that the next day, because the
Mm.
kids are ornery, they're all over the place, just they didn't get a good night's sleep, they're not integrated. And so, we want to be able to choose to our best ability situations that are conducive to the alignment of our home.
Mm.
That would be something you want to choose consciously as well. And then how this might lead to even the question of innocence. It's that you're given a narrative of possibilities of
Mm.
what can happen in a different home, how people handle things in real life, to even the idea of like, for example, my son is 11.
Yeah.
He seems a lot older, but he is so sweet and likes to cuddle with me still. And let's say when it's come to him discover, like him going through puberty or discovering himself to other changes in his body, that I would want him to know about certain things based off of where I think he is medically.
Mhm.
I would want him to know about things that happen sociologically. I would want him to know about things that are impacting him hormonally. Like, I would want him to have this information. And what really truly helps children is the transparent conversations, as much information you can share with them that remains open and curious, to where they have options in life. They have ways to think about those things. And rather than experience the harshness of life, to experience I'll give you an example. Uh,
Mhm.
where I used to live, they really sheltered children there. I mean, a lot of the families, like, oh my God. And my neighbor talked to me about his daughters where, they got, they're 11 years old and they heard another kid say shit and they got offended. It didn't feel good to them. I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot worse words than that on this
Mhm.
planet. And they're going to hear. And of course, like, they end up they went to when they went to the middle school. I mean, these kids they didn't watch anything other than PG-13. Their parents shelter them. They're going to middle school where they're doing drugs, having sex in a bathroom. Here, these kids are being exposed to extremes
Mm.
and not knowing what to do with it, shocked. And here, his intentions were to preserve their innocence. And yet, that innocence was met with other realities, which they don't know how to handle themselves.
Mm.
It's uncomfortable. It's like someone coming from the country and being thrown into New York. And it doesn't mean that you expose a child to harshness and city
Mhm.
life and
Mm.
all this sexual stuff. It's that you recognize the world exists everywhere now.
Mm.
Children have phones. You just can't turn off the TV at the house.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to completely shelter your children where there's no TV, where they're homeschooled, where they're not exposed by other children. They have access to everything on the internet,
Mm.
everything. So how do you have those conversations in a loving way so they feel like they have some sense of control, they understand it more,
Mm.
that it's not going to shock them, and that will preserve their innocence. I know that was a long-winded way to get there.
No, but absolutely, because here's the thing, protecting them, and it's about allowing them and having that trust with them so that they in turn can come to you and ask the questions without thinking, oh no, I can't go to my parents because we're not supposed to know about that. It's hiding behind the falseness of it as well. I
Mhm.
absolutely get that.
Yeah.
It really is being open, honest. Mm,
Yeah. We talk about everything in this house.
yeah. Yes, I have done with my children, I can assure you. So, what does it truly mean to teach a child self regulation?
Well, let's break down the
Mm,
word or words self-regulation.
mm,
So, first off, what is the true self? And what I mean by that is many kids are defined by their emotions, pronouns, by their likes, and everything else. So, for me, when I think of the self, I think of the capital self, and that is my true beingness, my true existence. Like, for example, I might be called Dr. Ray, but that's just a name for this human being that is forever unfolding consciousness. I'm a soul before I'm a human being. I still exist in the spiritual world. So, kind of like this physical apparatus is just a projection of what I know right now, opening up my mouth and talking. So, who am I? What is the self? And so, every parent has to come to some story with this. Like, and if they don't know themselves, how can they teach self-regulation? And so from this perspective, self-regulation is two parts: knowing myself and then being able to regulate myself, my emotions. Most people, when they think of self-regulation, are thinking like, okay, all right, I'm going to have to do public speaking. I'm going to have to speak in front of my class. I have a class project where I have to do a demonstration. I'm nervous. Okay. I'm going to do a meditation exercise, or I'm going to do what my father and I talked about, which is just imagine I'm just sharing to my father and not the whole class, and just stay in that focus. It might be a way to not let your nervous system override, you and hijack what it is that you really want to say and share. And so children today will be triggered by almost anything because they don't have a strong sense of self. And so if they don't have a strong sense of self, sure, maybe meditating could help. Sure, what kid are you going to get to meditate? You know what I mean? Sure, getting to run out their energy outside, to other focusing exercises and whatever. But what I find to be more effective and sustainable is back to what I shared earlier, and that is, who are you? So a child can start moving into that space. That's why I like the movie Soul. There's other like animated films. There's a movie where they break down all the emotions, and it's made by the same writer. I forgot what the name of that is. And they show the kid being a small kid, they become a teenager. And what is that movie?
Yeah, I know exactly which movie you're on about, and there's a little blue person. Yeah.
I'm googling it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, so it is, because it's important, because this would be really, really good, because this is even all right. Yeah, I think the guys. What's interesting is that the name of the writer has my name, but it's spelled different. It's Pete Doctor. Believe it or not, that's my brother's name, Pete. Is that funny? Yeah.
He didn't do the film to write it.
So yeah, so I think it's inside and out.
Oh yeah, of course. Yes.
Yeah, inside and out. All right, yeah. So in that movie, they merely show a small child growing up and going through different experiences and having different emotions. Our emotions is our guidance systems. They are not who we are. They're just it's just our guidance system to know if something's working, if we're in our excitement or joy, or if we're being authentic. That it's important to know. Number two, what we think about ourselves, or the story outside of ourselves, is a projection based off of our consciousness. Well, who is in a driver's seat with my consciousness? Where do those thoughts come from? All right. Well, it might be my ego. I don't know. Maybe it's based off how my emotions are influencing me. Maybe it's based off of what I've come to know and my belief systems. It's all of that. It's all of that. But who's the ghost in the machine? Well, the ghost in the machine is your consciousness. And if you want to say it's your soul or spirit moving through you as well, sure, it could be that as well. But ultimate self-regulation is being able to align that human experience in that moment with your soul. That's what it is. It's bringing it back to this moment, such as if I were to do public speaking, if a child was to be doing like a teenager had to speak in front of a class or do something else that made, him be uncomfortable, walk up to a girl he likes and say, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you," whatever it is. When they take pause and breathe in their body, when they maybe are directed to like look outside, like I'm looking at nature right now and I can lose myself in nature. There's going to be that there's going to be that moment in between my next thought or what comes in my mouth, which is the arrival of myself. It is teaching little skill sets to kind of be in that space before the thoughts. And so therefore a teenager like having to do a talk, she might be up there in front of the class and she just closes her eyes for a moment, or she does something that works as a hypnotic cue. She starts connecting to her soul, who she is. And, these yogic techniques and breath work help that alignment. But that's why it works, is because in that moment, just with our breath, we arrive. And that's the ultimate like self-regulation. It's connection to our nervous system. It's also connection to our soul.
Wow. Beautifully put. I love that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And you are the author of All It Takes Is One. Drop your one big hidden belief and master your life. Tell me more about that, and who's that for?
That book is for all people. And if anyone was listening to this or watching this and interested, is that it helps you find those hidden beliefs that are negative, that are not supporting you, and also where they stem from and how to counteract them with compassion and love. I'll give you an example. Let's just say I was in this conversation with you, and then there's a moment I fumble over my words, and then I want to redo this or tell you, "Hey, let's edit that out." Like, what would I have to be believing in to really make a big deal about that? How would I have to feel about myself to believe that? Or what life philosophy must I have to even want to like go back and have that edited? Will it be where I have some connection to being perfect? So in that moment, I might not feel enough I want people to maybe hear me sound smart, and I can keep going with that to recognize, and I realize that I don't feel smart enough, so I don't want to sound stupid. And that's basically why I wanted you to edit that or whatever else. The book helps you get to those thoughts that that measures us with something that's negative. And most people have a couple thoughts that are the themes throughout their life and all relationships, all things, whether it's to money, to intimate partner, to their child, to their friends.
It's all that wanting to look good as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. So what is one of the most important lessons you've learnt over your life so far?
To not take life so seriously, because it's all a projection of my forever unfolding consciousness. To simplify that is every person listening or watching this had some challenge that was in his or her way. It could have been, how am I going to get over this breakup? To there's something that you think is really important that you think you really want. Then years later, you realize it's not what you really needed, or that if you would have taken that path, your life wouldn't be what it is now. And then you recognize, wow, like I'm not that same person. I'm not the same person who was hurting over that breakup. To I don't know why I even was attracted to that guy. That guy's a dick. You know. So we graduate in our consciousness. And so if we can remember that, like we can really perseverate on negative things and feel bad about it. But if we can connect to that truth, as far as where we've always had moments of challenges, and if we're here right now and like some things in our life, and that we see things improving or things are better than we were 10, 15 years ago, then whatever we're stressing about right now will pass. So, and not taking things so seriously has nothing to do with being passive. It's really about realizing that doesn't help. And what it is, it's putting more power in the trust in the process of life, God, and yourself.
Brilliant. So if there was one key takeaway you want every listener to walk away with today, what would that be?
Be transparent with yourself. It's a beautiful thing. There's no hiding. Life gets easier.
It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
So where can the listeners find you online, your book? What's your website, Dr. Ray?
My website is drraydoktor.com. That's RAYDOKTOR.com. And there you can also find my book, but also it is on Amazon and also other retailers. If they don't have it, you can ask for it at the bookstore and they can order it for you. And that's the picture of the book. All it takes is one. Drop your one big hidden belief and master your life. So that's the book, and it's also a workbook as well, meaning that it's not just you reading it, it'll take you through some experiences.
Yes, and thank you for the copy you sent me. I truly appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today. And by doing so, I know you have helped so many people and made a difference. I really want to acknowledge you for that, Dr. Ray, Doktor.
Thank you.
So we are all about Create the Courage to be Fearless podcast here. What is your definition of courage?
What is my definition of courage? Well, if you notice this moment, I'm not answering right away, and I'm doing it purposely. If I were in front of 100,000 people, or just you, or whatever, it's being able to take pause, and not even answer, to reflect, even when maybe you believe the rest of the world is waiting for you to give a response or answer or show up. There's a sense of unnecessary urgency on our planet. And it takes courage to sit in your own timing. And that has to do with everything, your soul evolution, your parenting style, for things to come together. And yeah, because a lot of people really are in a hurry and missing life. There's this, overstimulated nervous system syndrome thing happening. And when you can take pause, you can really, really, really experience source energy and God move through you. And it takes courage to lean into that space, because many people are really stressed. Yeah, I'm not one of those people.